4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to thank the chairman and ranking member for bringing a bipartisan, actual job-creating piece of legislation to the chamber in these highly divisive times. This is the type of legislation we should be talking about. Rural counties across America, not just in my home state of Oregon, are dying. Unemployment is still in the double digits, as you've heard. Schools are closing, infrastructure is deteriorating, and crime is increasing. There is really no recovery in rural Oregon, rural America. The dwindling amount of county funding from our national forests and secure rural school system has left local governments unable to afford even the basic services that every American should have. They're making our communities unhealthy and unsafe. In Oregon, we currently have 2 counties going bankrupt while we stand idly by. The status quo is no longer acceptable. Moreover, due to the lack of proper active management, our forests are diseased, dying, and overstocked, leaving them susceptible to the catastrophic wildfires we're seeing on TV every night this past summer and fall. This year alone, the U.S. Forest Service has spent over $1 billion fighting forest fires. These wildfires not only burn millions of acres of public and private forest every year, but they cause serious harm to the environment, water, air quality, and to our public health. The Biscuit Fire in Oregon in 2002 alone produced as much as 1/3 of all the carbon released through fossil fuel burning in Oregon annually. That cannot continue. Title III of H.R. 1526 is a bipartisan solution to a unique set of Oregon forest lands that was drafted by myself and my colleagues, Congressman DeFazio and Walden. The Oregon and California Railroad lands, commonly known as the O&C lands, have a unique mandate which differs from other BLM and Forest Service lands that requires them to generate revenue for 18 Oregon counties from a sustainable timber harvest. However, due to tedious and continued litigation, harvest levels are now 90% below what they were in the 90s. No one's asking to go back to the 70s or 80s, folks. That's not the issue, despite what you'll hear. These are lands that are meant to produce timber in a sustainable way. The federal law requires it, actually, and the legislation we wrote does it in an environmentally sound manner. Along with a reliable amount of timber and revenue for our counties, I'd like to remind everyone Title III also designates 90,000 acres of new wilderness protections, 150 miles of wild and scenic rivers. The bill places over 1 million acres of old growth into protection and creates a conservation fund to help take care of it. The underlying bill also extends a lot of the popular forestry programs like stewardship contracting and good neighbor authority. You're going to hear a lot of misinformation about this bill and outright falsehoods. Contrary to what our opponents claim, Title III guarantees ESA and clean water protections that have worked for decades on Oregon's state and private forest lands. It has extensive riparian protections. It restricts pesticide use. Most importantly, it protects our most green and renewable natural resource for generations to come. And it puts certainty back into the woods for our rural communities and job creators. Title III of this job would create over 15,000 direct and indirect jobs by itself. The underlying bill would create over 200,000 jobs nationwide. When folks are still struggling to find jobs and put food on the table, we cannot deny them this opportunity to work. Their families and their communities depend on it. I'm also very encouraged to know Senator Wyden, chairman of the Senate Energy and Natural Resource Committee, is also working on a parallel plan to help fix our broken rural economies and revive our unhealthy forests. We plan to work in a bicameral and bipartisan fashion to come to a final solution that will provide revenue for our counties, clean up our unhealthy forests, and get people back to work in the woods. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.